studying interior architecture in Teesside up north.
Oh yeah.
And I, back in the day, I'm just looking for a tripod. Back in the day, I used to just I had, those early, I don't know how old you are, but there was those early Walkmans, the Sony Walkmans.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And so I would just basically just be walking around in my Sony Walkmans, just singing all day, just singing to music. I just was one of the people that always had to have music playing from somewhere.
Yeah.
And and I was just people would just kept asking me to join bands and be in their bands, and I was kind of like, nah, because I was really nervous and I didn't really want to do that. And then just, I would just kind of started to say yes. I thought in the first year I was just studying. And then in the second year, I was like, you know what? I was kind of ahead of the class because while I was doing, when I was at college, I did a lot of, I kind of got involved doing a lot of interior design, signed on to an agency. So I had quite a lot of experience. So by the end of the first year, I was well ahead. And I was like, I can relax a bit. So I joined the Students' Union and I was involved in kind of running the kind of, what do you call it, the kind of party side, book bands and the entertainment, that's it, the entertainment's part. So we would book bands and organise parties and I used to just keep, people, eventually I just said yes, and so I kind of been singing with this guy who played piano, and we booked a band, but we hadn't actually confirmed it properly, so it was choir and they didn't actually turn up. So everyone just went, you can sing, you go and get on stage. And I was just like, oh my God. So I just got on stage and brought the house down. And that was the first time I ever sang. So it was by accident, really. And then I got a bit more confidence and I joined the band in my second year. My second year at university was just so much fun. And then I joined the band, and then I was living with some friends, and we used to have house parties, so I used to DJ. That's when I first started DJing. And so it was just kind of came from that, really. And then my third year uni, I had to just concentrate on my studies, so I quit the band and I quit everything, and I just I came here to study, I got to get a degree. So I got my degree, and then I went back to London, and I was working as an interior design assistant, and then I was like, I think I'm going to start singing again. So that was quite fun. So I just started all over again. Except that nobody would have me sing in their band, so I just ended up singing jazz because I could only get, I could only kind of join bands, but nobody saw me as in an indie band or singer or anything like that. If I played the instrument really well, then that would be different. But so I started singing jazz, and I just kind of worked my way up from networking and meeting people. I mean, I'd go out every single night, because if you didn't go out, you missed it. There was no social media. There was barely any phones, answer machine. My mum wouldn't let me use the phone anyway, so I say that, but I'd already left home by then. But it was a question of you just had to be out and to be connected, and just, if you were in one place and then someone will tell you about another thing that's happening the next night, and you go to that, and then someone says, oh yeah, this is happening, blah, blah. And so you just have to be there. And if you weren't there, you just missed it.
Right.
So I remember just being out till 4 o'clock in the morning every single night, and then coming home and had to be at work by 9 o'clock in the morning. So, it was, we were kids and we could handle it. And then it just grew from there. I was just kind of I didn't know how to be in the music industry or anything like that. And I think the turning point was when I met Lee Johnson, who was our manager for 32 years, my personal manager for 32 years. And, I sang in this place called Singers, which was this place where you could just get up and sing. And she was in the audience, and she said, I want to manage you. And that was really the turning point. That was really when things started to move forward and I started to get somewhere.
Right, okay. How did you get the name Skin? Just
because I was super skinny. when I was a kid, I was just horrendously skinny, and it wasn't this perceived as a good thing. So people would just call me skinny all the time. And in Jamaica they say, "Yeah, you're too manga," which is no way of saying skinny. And then when I got in the band, I just shortened it to Skin, because everyone called me skinny. I don't want to be skinny because that's just normal. Everybody's skinny. a lot of people skinny, so I just changed it to skinny. But all my band and all my mates call me skinny.
So I know these are questions you've had to answer like about a million times. So, where did the band name come from as well, Skunk Anansie?
Well, skunk is just skunk the animal, because it's just an animal in the jungle that the biggest animal, elephant and tiger, and like nobody's going near this animal because it's got its own kind of weapon of defense. So it's just the idea of like, it doesn't matter how big or small you are, you can have other things to protect yourself. And then Anansie is Anansie the Spider-Man, who's a folklore character from when I was in Jamaica. There was this when I was a kid, my mum used to take us to Jamaica. On TV, there was a character called Miss Lou, and she used to read children's stories, and she would always read Anansie the Spider-Man stories, Bro Anansie. And I just wanted to have something in a name that kind of like was Jamaican and my childhood, and that meant something to me. Yeah. Because a lot of names at the time were like Britpop names, like one-word names, Blur, Oasis, Echobelly Punk, and I just wanted to have something completely different. That was difficult because in my head as a kid, I remember seeing Arnold Schwarzenegger on television, and someone said, I remember him being asked, "Why didn't you change your name?" And he goes, "Well, because you would have to learn my name. That's my name, and it's me. And once you learn it, you never forget it. But you have to learn it. You have to put a bit of effort in to get to know, And that's why I remember that as a kid. And I was just like, you know what? That's really true. So if I have Skunk Anansie, everyone's like Skunk Anansie, Skunk whatever. But once people learned it, they never forgot it. And I think it was just more of a statement of like, we are not Britpop. Yeah. We are something completely different, and so it was a name that was not a marketable name. It was just a name that was more important to me, that I could feel connected to.
Right. Okay. And how did the band come together? How did you all meet?
We mainly met at the Splash Club. So I used to go down to the Splash Club all religiously. You know the one in King's Cross? Yeah. It was started by my guitarist. He was in a band called Big Life Casino. Right. And they started the Splash Club so that they could get money for rehearsals. But in the 90s, it just became this place for like a million unsigned bands. And so I would go there most days, especially if they're on a weekend, just to see local bands. And so, we were in bands, and then we'd like go to rehearsals, and I kind of had my original songwriter, Len, in the band, and then I met Cass. And when I met Cass, then I was like, okay, he's great. And then it was just, by the time, that was a band called Mama Wild. And then by the time we got to the end of the last year of Mama Wild, we were kind of hanging out at the Splash Club. And I began to realise that my band there's too many things that weren't right, too many mistakes. And I think in those early bands, you make a bunch of mistakes, and that's really good, really healthy. And then I just got to like, you know what? I know what I'm doing now, but this band has got too much. It's been around too long. For an unsigned band, you're around too long. It's over. No one signed you. I was like, I know what I'm doing now. When I finish that band, I start a new band. And I was talking to Cass, it's like, this band was never. It's over. We had a guitarist who was just a horror, incredible guitarist. Fucking horror of a person. Sadly, he actually died a year and a half ago, But yeah, I haven't really got much good to say about him. He had a horrible life. Did a whole bunch of horrible things. And then I was like, I can't be in the band with this guy. Yeah. And then I stopped it, and then me and Kath thought up the name Mama Wild, and then we knew Ace because of the thing. And so I used to go and stand next to Ace when he was DJing, And I just said to him one day, I'm going to start a new band. I'm going to stop Skunk Anansie. And he goes, I'm going to start a new band called Skunk Anansie. He goes, I want to be your guitarist. I didn't even get a chance to say, what I wanted to say. And that was it. So there was the three of us, and we used the drummer from Mama Wild who wasn't right. And then we found a new drummer in Rubbish France who wasn't right either. But, we had him in the band for a few months, and then we moved on and found Mark Richardson. So, yeah.
Was it quite hard when you first started out with the band to, gain traction and to get known? What was it like?
With Skunk Anansie, it was super easy.
Yeah.
I mean, we were already with Mama Wild, it was hard because there was so many things wrong with the band. We were too bluesy, it was a bit dated, guitar, too, not the right members in the band. But Mama Wild was just like I always describe it as like a gleaming salmon going straight upstream. It's like we got the right songs, we got the right image, we had an amazing live performance. And we got signed literally our second gig. I remember it was the day that Kurt Cobain died.
Yeah.
And Rick Lennox from One Little Independent, was at the time it was called One Little Indian. And it's like One Little Independent. He came down and we blew his socks off. And then he came to the gig number 3 because he said, if you can make me forget about, he was a massive Kurt Cobain fan, a massive Nirvana fan, and he was like, if you can make me forget about that band, then you must be good. But he came and saw us play again just to double check. And he was like, he loved it, and we signed to them. We signed. Our first gigs were like in April, might have been March and we did 1 gig a month for 3 months, and by the 3rd gig we'd signed a deal.
Right, okay. How does the songwriting work in the band? Do you typically have like one leader, or do you all have different roles?
Well, I mean, it's developed and changed as the years have gone on. Originally in the early days, I started writing a lot with Len Aaron, who was in Mama Wild. Len had put us together as a songwriting team. We've been writing songs for 3 years, just every single day writing a song. So that was a really good tradition. It was like going back to university. And then, if you're going to be in a band, you're going to write with your band. So now, we don't write with Len anymore. We stopped writing with him a good 15 years ago. He does other things now, but we mainly just write as a band now, and then I write on my own or have ideas of my own, and then I take them to the band, or Ace likes to write a lot of riffs, and everybody in the band has a studio,
right?
So everyone can put ideas down.
Yeah.
I'm in my studio right now.
Oh, right, nice.
So everybody has a studio, so everyone has those skills.
Yeah.
So we basically, we just all write together. What we tend to do is we tend to kind of go to our little secret hideout in Devon, write a bunch of songs, and then develop them individually. Everyone does their parts and sends them around to each other. We developed that in COVID, I would say, because before that we just used to write songs and then just record them. But during COVID, we kind of developed. We all put a lot more work into our studios, and so we developed a way of like sending stuff around.
Yeah.
We have a template and we send it around.
Right, I see. Okay. When you first started working in a studio, do you think that affected the way you wrote songs? Did it, just having that studio approach, did it affect the way you wrote songs and approached songs?
Yeah, not in the first album. In the first album, we literally we sat up in a room. I mean, I would say recording has always been a different entity because we're mainly a live band. So the first album was great because we just recorded what's it called? Like the pollen in there. It's my nose really itchy. But in the first time we just recorded it live, with no overdubs or anything.
Yeah.
And then the second album we had the Garth, who recorded in the complete opposite way. So he literally overdubs and makes everything perfect. So the first album was just Sylvia Massey produced it with us, and we just sat up in a room and then we just recorded everything live. It was crazy and it was really fun. We kind of had to learn how to record because we'd never recorded anything. And then the second album was just 4 studios running. We were hugely successful. There was like 4 studios running. We only had 4.5 weeks to record the second album. And it was just really horrible and really difficult because, Garth has a style of recording that's very precise and very perfect.
Yeah.
And he gets an amazing sound. He's a wonderful producer, but it's very, very perfect. And that was, we didn't know what hit us, and it just couldn't hurt our confidence a bit because whatever we did, he would just make just too many takes and then getting people to edit things. We had an editing studio. I remember at one point, I actually said, you know what, Garth, we have to record this song again because this doesn't sound like my drummer, it sounds like your editor.
Yeah.
So Yeah, and then after that we had and what's his name? Andy Wallace, which was just a dream of putting that in Woodstock in America, which was just so lovely and fun and perfection.
Right, okay. I've got a question about a few songs that you've written as well. So, and again, you've probably been asked these like a million times already, but sorry. So, can you tell us how Weak?
That's right.
Can you tell us how Weak? Weak. Can you tell us how that came about?
Yeah. Well, I remember we were in the studio, and I remember we were like, we need something a bit slow, whatever. And I was just learning how to play guitar. And I went home, and I was just bashing around on the guitar, and I only knew a few chords. And I started playing those chords to Weak together, and then just singing along. And the song literally came out of nowhere. So then, but then I didn't really take it seriously, and I took it to the band. And I was like, I've got this idea. And I was like, lost in time again. And they were like, that's really good. And I was like, really? I thought it was like a B-side. And then we worked on it. And then we wrote the middle eight. I didn't have a middle eight. And so we wrote the middle eight bit. In this danger world. And that bit. And it's one of those songs that came together quite quickly. I think the biggest hits have come together quite quickly,
Yeah.
And we do have hits that we had to work on. I mean, Charlie Big Potato, we had to do more work on. But that song was just literally 3 chords. It was so simple, and it just kind of fell in our lap, really.
Yeah. What about Little Baby Swastika as well? How did that? I know the story, but can you tell us?
Oh, well, when we were in King's Cross, King's Cross in those days was just an utter shithole.
Yeah.
Just like prostitutes, drugs, you remember I used to come out of the station, King's Cross station, and I was all scantily clad in those days, when you're a young girl. So I always used to jog to King's Cross, because if I stopped, I'd just get accosted by someone. So I used to run to King's Cross so that no one could jump on me or something. And then we used to rehearse in the studio around the corner, which was, again, just another shithole. It was basically an office block that this guy called Graham used to own. And so you'd be rehearsing one room, you could hear somebody in the next room rehearsing.
Yeah.
And it used to be really irritating, because all of us bands used to rehearse in the same place. And then, we'd hear somebody. I remember when we were rehearsing Weak, we had the band next door playing it. And we were banging on the walls, oi, oi! Fucking stop stealing our shit, So, so, I remember he was a proper National Front guy, like a proper, British BNP, British Party, whatever. But he knows that he didn't care, it didn't matter to us, it's not like he, owed us any money. But I remember coming out there one day, and I saw this Little Baby Swastika kind of a foot off the wall. Yeah. And it was really wobbly. It looks like a 4-year-old had done it. It just looked really wobbly. And like a child's first attempt at drawing a swastika.
Yeah.
And it came into my head, who put Little Baby Swastika on the wall? Wasn't very high, could have been more than 4 years old. That's a little boy put Little Baby Swastika on the wall. And I think it's a lot of our songs are just very kind of conversational. That's not supposed to work, that lyric, and that way that song came together. And it's very wordy, lots of syllables, very fast, very crazy. But, songs work. When you step outside the traditional world of what a song is and what a song's supposed to be.
Yeah.
If you can get outside of that, you can really write some very interesting music. And so I just kind of wrote that. And then Ace, for years, 20 years, told me a story about how, he was in a reception and he heard that on a fax machine. And he only just confessed to me last year that was just made up for interviews, But I believed it. So I can't tell that story anymore, because basically Ace just came up with that riff, a lot of the riffs are riffs that I kind of sing to him, and then he has to try and work out the notes. That's why some of the riffs are really weird.
Yeah. Because
I play guitar. But I'm not a guitarist. And I was just going, what about this? Something, I just sang, another band song. But anyway, you know, and so he just kind of like will work things out. He just like likes to play guitar every day and just play riffs every day. And that song just came together. It was just kind of like it was just a mashup song. And it was actually Radio 1 that made that song a hit, because we actually hadn't finished recording our album, and Stephen Mack and Joe Wiley had this competition where they played a song, and the song that, you know, the song that the people liked was the one that they released as a single, and we won. So that's the song that got released as a single before our album came out.
Oh, excellent. What was it like headlining Glastonbury in 1999?
Oh, you're jumping around here. It was, I mean, phenomenal experience. It's kind of like the thing that every band wants to do.
Yeah.
Is, you know you've made it when you headline the Pyramid Stage at Glastonbury, because it's still, I mean, we've played a lot of festivals around the world, and it's still the best. You know, it's a little bit big now, I would say. Being there, you know, this year, I thought it's quite big. It's quite hard to maneuver around. But in those days, you could kind of run around to various stages, and it was quite cool. And I just remember just the biggest audience that we played to at that date, and flags waving, and just a really fun atmosphere. I think it was the year after, I think June Evis had just sadly passed. And so there was also that emotional quality. It was the first Glastonbury, you know, after she had passed as well. So I remember Michael Eady standing outside the stage, so I dedicated the song to her.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a real moment. It was definitely a moment in our history that, you know, we love, that we kind of hark back to as like a memorable time.
Yeah, it's well, I mean, you're obviously a lovely person, right? I mean, you just come over as really, really nice. Do you think the media in general, though, tend to portray sort of strong women as sort of like scary and, you know, what's the word?
Black women.
Yeah, specifically. But you get Scary Spice as well, don't you, and that sort of thing. They tend to sort of...
Yeah, I mean, Grace Jones, I mean, it's kind of like... I mean, it's kind of like an underlying racism, really, in terms of, like, you know, black women doing different things that are different makes certain kind of journalists and certain people feel uncomfortable. So the way that if they can control that person or control the narrative of that person, control how they are perceived, then it makes them, you know, then they get their confidence back because they feel that they're still on top.
Yeah.
So I had a lot of journalists, a lot of interviews start with Amazonian 6-foot bisexual or lesbian lead singer of Skunk Anansie. And it was funny if you get a bunch of adjectives before your name, you know, it just sets it up. And I literally every interview would start like that. And I do interviews with, like, as I'm talking to you like now, just like this. And I'd read it, and they were like, "Yes, she was terrifying when she walked in the room." I'm like, "You motherfucking liar!" We sat there, we had a beer, we were laughing and joking, and then you perpetuate the myth of me being this scary, huge person. I mean, in actual fact, I'm just 5'8" and quite small still. There's nothing Amazonian about me at all. Nothing Amazonian about me. And I'm, you know, quite shy and quite quiet, really. I'm really much better one-to-one than I am in a group.
Yeah.
And I'm really quite mellow and calm, but not on stage. In those days on stage, on stage I was really quite different. I was kind of like an exaggeration of all the crazy parts of my character. But yeah, it just got a bit kind of boring because I feel that some of, you know, it's a bit lazy journalism, really. You just describe me how everybody else has described me to perpetuate a myth.
Yeah.
You know? And I still feel that black women are really kind of, you know, they still keep it going. I mean, if you look at the way Meghan was treated by the press in the UK, you know, it's still the same kind of thing. You know, it's like if we step out of what's perceived as our place, then, you know, people get uncomfortable and then they just get negative or, you know, just, I don't know. It's something that, you know, we have to fight against every day.
Yeah. I see that you do a lot of work with the, I'll get to the wording right, the Music Education Scholarship.
No, I have a I'm the first. What do you call it? What am I on? Belize Arts University. I'm their first kind of. It's not an ambassador. Hold on. I've got to get this right. 1 second. Let's just
Chancellor.
Right. Chancellor. That's it. Yeah. Oh, I didn't realise you were still there.
No, I've come back.
Thank you.
You've got 5 minutes, by the way, because then it's going to quit.
No, it's all right.
Yeah, Chancellor. Oh, and so one of the things, the first thing I asked them to do is to organise some scholarships so that I could kind of give some education to some people who can't afford it, you know, who are very talented, already got into university, but don't have the finances. So that's where that comes from.
Oh, excellent. Okay. One last thing then, because I know you've got a day to go to and stuff. So if you would give one piece of advice to up-and-coming musicians, what would it be?
I would say that the most important thing to remember is nothing. You know, it takes 10 years to become a good guitarist. It takes 10 years to 15 years to become a good drummer. Things don't fall into your lap. When you really learn your craft, I guess what I'm saying. And I don't think that just because you've got a good song and it looks good on social media, that's it. You know, it takes a long time to be good. It takes a long time to get good. But try and do as much as you can yourself and learn all sides of it. And really do learn the business side as well, because, you know, we're in an environment now that just good ideas can get things done.
Yeah.
And you can completely control everything yourself. You don't need record companies. You don't need any of that. You know, you can do everything yourselves now. So try and think of fresh ideas. Really learn your craft properly. Try and network and connect with people. But just be really honest with yourself. You know, if someone tells you something's brilliant and you don't feel it is, get to a point where you feel it is. You know, have your own sense of what's good and what's not good. Don't just rely on other people to tell you something's good, because sometimes you can run away with something and you learn the hard way that's actually kind of average. So the question I always ask myself when I'm doing anything is like, is it good enough? Is this well done?
Yeah, good answer. Thank you. Okay, well, thanks again for agreeing to do this interview. It's been really, really good. I've really enjoyed it, and really nice talking to you. And good luck with your DJing as well. I see you doing that.
Me too.
Yeah, thank you.